Hi, this is Kerry, here with a comparative review of The Oracle of the Shapeshifters by Lucy Cavendish and Jasmine Becket-Griffith. The original Australian edition of the deck was brought out in 2011, and now we have a new American edition that has just come out in 2013. So I wanted to look at how do the two compare. The first thing that we can notice is that the boxes are the same size. They're both nice and sturdy. However, they do have different artwork, both front and back. And the American edition has slightly bilious green text on it, which I'm not too sure about. Also, the artwork on the American box is not actually found in any of the cards in the deck. As for the cardstock, the American edition is somewhat thinner and flimsier. If you place them side by side, the American stack is noticeably shorter than the stack of cards for the Australian edition. As for the card design, both editions have the same design on the front, the same border just along the sides, the same font and colour of text, and the same layout. The backs, however, are quite different. The American edition has some winged frogs on it, which are not found in any of the cards, though there are some similar frogs in You Are Unlike Anyone Else. Meanwhile, the Australian edition has a cameo of Little Owl Lynn on it. So both are non-reversible and they're quite different. Other than that, a lot of changes have been made. Within the cards themselves, 20 of the card images have been changed from one deck to the other, which in a deck of 45 cards is a lot. Two of those changes are purely cosmetic. They've removed the borders that were found in the Australian edition. However, a lot of the changes are a lot bigger than that. In 10 of the cards, we have totally new images while keeping the same title and the same tagline. 4 of these cards are mermaid cards, and I wonder whether the Australian versions were found to be a little bit too creepy. And also 2 of the cards that have been changed in this way, the characters had tattoos, so I wonder whether that's something else that wasn't desired, because quite a few of these cards are still quite signature artwork for Jasmine Becket-Griffith, though perhaps a few of the changes were made to make the deck more consistent. There are also 4 cards where there's a new image and also a new title. So the tagline remains the same, but the title changes. For example, we have the Phoenix of the Waning Moon, which becomes A Time to Say Goodbye. However, the tagline, Something is About to End for Now, stays the same. And so, for example, in the companion book, there are 3 sections for each card in the description. And one is an about section that kind of describes the card, and that one has obviously changed between the two. But the other 2 sections, one where the card speaks and a section on divination or divinatory meanings, those have stayed the same. There are also 4 cards where they have a new image, a new title, and a new tagline. In 2 of these, they still have approximately the same meaning between one deck and the other. For example, we have Raised by Wolves becomes Hedgehog Love, but both still talk about belonging, that sense of being part of a group, finding your true family. However, the last 2 have been changed utterly. So, for example, Poseidon's daughter becomes You Are Unlike Anyone Else. And while Poseidon's daughter talked about having the spiritual or material resources that you need, You Are Unlike Anyone Else talks about individuality and how your complexities actually make you interesting. Likewise, Amphitrite has been changed to Little Brother, Little Sister, and while the Sea Queen's blessing talked about riding the waves of life, being cleansed, and enjoying things like music and dolphins, Little Brother, Little Sister talks about responsibility, caring for others, and being tested to see whether you can be trusted. Overall, the changes made do make the artwork more consistent. It's more of the signature style of Jasmine Becket-Griffith with the large faces, large eyes. Also a softer, gentler feel to the American cards overall. They're somewhat dreamier and certainly cuter. And we also find that the animals in the American edition are smaller and a more natural size compared to their seemingly human female companions. Also in the US deck, there is a greater variety of animals shown on the cards. If we look at the companion book, the US edition is longer. It's 176 pages compared to 164 in the Australian edition. However, a lot of this is actually because there are larger section titles within the text and the scans of all the cards are also larger. We also find 2 additional spreads within the US edition, a Finding Your Familiar spread and an Animal Chakra spread, which are both very nice. There were still 3 spreads in the Australian edition, but it's always better to have more spreads, right? The US edition also has an additional section on how to read the card meanings, which I'm not sure is particularly necessary, but perhaps if this is someone's first oracle deck. Overall, there are lots of superficial changes between the 2 books. For example, we is changed to you, making the sentences more direct, and the sentence structure has been simplified in other ways as well. One of the things that I really like is that there's a pronunciation guide in the American book for pagan terms and deity names. Overall, it's clear that the American edition has been adapted for a teen audience. For example, it mentions studying, high school, after-school jobs, and hanging out with your friends. Whereas what's been deleted are things like lovemaking, divorce, becoming a parent, and becoming a wise old one. This adaptation for a teen audience is also seen in the fact that 2 of the poems in the introductory section have been changed, where before they were lyrics from Cure songs, now they've been changed to other poetry. And I wonder whether it was because the Cure talks about wildness, or whether it's just that it's the wrong generation, people don't really know who the Cure are. Still, overall, I think that both decks are inspiring and useful, and certainly the American edition hasn't been overly dumbed down by being adapted for a younger audience. In conclusion, if you're a fan, I think really it's a must-have to get both decks, because so many of the card images have been changed. You have so much additional artwork from Jasmine Becket-Griffith. And it's also nice that the American edition is more consistent overall. That gives it a feeling of more cohesiveness. Though the Australian edition, I think you could still tell that it was all the same artist, as opposed to other decks where they have different artists, and that really shows through. Overall, the Australian edition is a little stranger, a little wilder, and has a bit more attitude, while the US deck is gentler, cuter, more dreamy. So, the choice is yours. Blessed be.